But first things first, we want to talk election petitions and matters elections. And to do this, we want to cross over to Uasin Gishu County and bring in live the IEBC chairperson, Wafula Chebukati. Chairperson, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time. Chairperson, if you can hear me, I trust you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much. Now, I am sure you've been monitoring the election rulings that will conclude next week at the courts. Several elections have been nullified. How soon as a commission do you think you'll begin preparing or looking towards conducting by-elections as directed by the courts?
Yeah, thank you, Maura. Let me start by saying that about 446 petitions were filed in respect of the last elections, of which 325 have been so far determined. And the ones allowed by the courts, we have three governor, 5 members of parliament, and 8 MCA petitions were allowed, which is out of 325, you can see it's less than 5%. As a commission, of course, we are ready. It's part of our budget to carry out these elections, and whenever we get the necessary reads from, the orders from the court, we shall be able to conduct the elections. I understand some of them already appeals have been filed in the Court of Appeal, so we shall have again to wait for determination of the appeals. And the period of appeal in the Court of Appeal is 6 months. So it depends on all those circumstances. So as a commission, we are ready to carry out the by-elections, yeah.
Okay, so at the moment, I guess you cannot give us specifics in terms of how much budget you've set aside or in terms of a time period when you think you'll be very comfortable conducting these by-elections. You're not able to give us those finer details.
We cannot give all the finer details at the moment until that time when we shall, the processes will commence.
Okay. What lessons would you say as a commission you've learned from the petition? What changes can we expect to see from your commission moving forward just by studying how each of the matters were handled in the courts?
Okay, in terms of lessons learned, I think if you look at the statistics, out of 325, only 16 petitions have been allowed by the courts. And of course, that tells you something, that the process, it vindicates the commission from elections of last year, that the process was free and fair. If you have less than 5%, which only were allowed by the courts. So lessons learned, we shall study the judgments, and we shall be able to come up with a report. That's part of our post-election evaluation, which we are currently undertaking.
Okay. As a lawyer, what are your views on some of the high costs that have been charged by the courts, some of which your own body will have to bear as well?
Well, courts normally follow the event, and courts, of course, have the right to award costs to litigants. I can say, for purpose of the commission, if we are paying any cost, is only for those petitions which are allowed, which are less than 5%. But remember, the courts have also been awarding the commission costs, so I think it balances out. There will be no loss to the taxpayers' money.
Okay. I also know that you're looking towards the issue of reviewing boundaries, a very sensitive topic. We've already seen certain communities saying that this town or this location belongs to our county or belongs to our people. How are you going to navigate this very sensitive topic of reviewing boundaries?
Boundary review is in the Constitution. It's part of our mandate. Our job is to manage elections and boundaries. And so that's a constitutional requirement which we must do. And the way we shall do it is after the budget, which is, after the census next year, we should be able now to map out, take the figures from the census and work out with the current constituencies and wards and come up with the new boundaries. So it's a process which is very scientific, and our team is preparing. By next year, I think all the logistics will be in place.
Okay.
So it's an emotive issue, but the only way to deal with it is go around the country, meet the people. That's part of the program the commission will undertake. And of course, at the end of the day, once we have good networking with the Kenyan people, it should be as smooth as a smooth process.
I'm sure there are certain counties that will be hoping to get favor from IBC. For example, when we talk about Nyahururu town, we know that, like, you know, it's in Laikipia right now, but the people of Nyandarua are saying that that town actually belongs to us. How are you going to deal with influence when counties, when governors might want to call you and say, hey, listen, this is our land, this is our place, it should be within our boundaries?
Let me say this. There are two aspects of boundaries. We have the administrative boundaries, which are the counties, the districts, and the sub-locations. And then we have political boundaries. Now, the Commission is only involved in political boundaries, which are constituencies and wards. We have no mandate to change county boundaries. Okay. That is now the work of the other arms of government. And so, for us, we shall deal with constituencies, which again we cannot increase because they are capped by the Constitution. We shall also deal with the wards, which the Commission has the power to increase or reduce. So those are our limits.
Okay. Okay.
So we shall deal with the issue of the wards and the constituencies only.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Chairperson. Just one or two final points very quickly. Last year, you lost one of your most vocal commissioners, yes, Dr. Yes. Roslyn Akombe. Is the process of replacing her, getting someone else in that position ongoing? What happens next?
Replacement, of course, is not for the Commission to replace. We are aware that it's the executive to initiate the process, and the Commission wrote to the Attorney General to remind him to inform the executive to pick it up. So far, we have not seen any progress on that side. So, of course, there will be need to replace her, and so that the Commission can function effectively. But at the moment, we are managing because we have sufficient commissioners to run meetings and the affairs of the Commission.
Okay. And also, how is IBC structuring itself in terms of operations this year? Last year, we know because of the push and pull of elections, you actually formed a special team to handle the repeat election. Is that special team still in place? We've also not heard a lot about your CEO, Ezra Chiloba. How are you operating in this new year?
Everything is fine in the Commission. The special team was a project team. As you know very well, Wahiga project has a beginning and an end. That team was formed specifically to manage the fresh presidential election, which came and went. So the team was stood down after the fresh presidential election. As for the Commission, it's running its affairs, and we are moving on. We are planning boundary delimitation. Right now, I'm on a tour in the North Rift. As you remember clearly, when we came in office, we set up 47 county offices. Initially, there used to be 17 regions, but we said we must get to the people, work with the people on the ground. So now we have the counties. I'm going around the North Rift to see how the staff are doing, so that we can strengthen the county structures. So we are working, we shall do institutional restructuring, and all the work we are supposed to do as a Commission is ongoing. So there's no crisis, there's no problem. You
say that there's no crisis, but last year we did see some push and pull between the Commission and the Secretariat. For example, how would you define your relationship with your CEO, Ezra Chiloba?
Well, the CEO is an employee of the Commission. As far as I'm concerned, he's in the office right now, he's working, and as I said, last year was a special year. We had an election to run. In fact, we ran 7 elections. And in terms of management, there were issues which were dealt with, and that's why we formed a special team which finished its work. So this year, going forward, is different. And as far as I'm concerned, the issues of last year and right now going forward are different. So
you enjoy a cordial relationship with your CEO. Can you say that?
He's an employee of the Commission. Okay. In terms of work, yes, we work together. Yes, yeah.
Okay, and you want to leave it at that. Yeah. My last question to you then will be, Chairperson. What we are seeing at the courts mean for the ordinary voter? We've seen ordinary voters going to the court to petition on certain results from the election, and they are slapped with heavy fines or to the cost of millions of shillings. Won't this discourage a lot of potential petitioners in 2022 from going to the courts because they are afraid that they might be slapped with costs of 5 million, 10 million Kenya shillings? Does that not discourage litigation?
I think that's now a question for the judiciary and
but what is your view?
The other arms of, I mean, the citizens, yeah. But my take is that
yes.
If you go to court, and initially I think politicians used to use voters to go to court on their behalf and maybe get away without paying any costs. I think it's necessary that anybody who goes to court and makes everybody hire a lawyer and get involved should pay some kind of costs. Maybe what we are talking about here is the amount, not the idea of paying costs. And that's now for the lawyers and the litigants to pursue the other avenues of judicial review.
Okay, thank you so much, IBC Chairperson Wafula Chebukati. I know you have a busy schedule up ahead for you in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County. Really grateful for finding time to talk with us.